Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. My guest today is Dylan from Serial Sales, based in Austin, Texas. He's in the high-ticket closing niche. So if you're interested in high-ticket sales, being a closer, all that good stuff, one of the most popular career paths for making money online, and being a digital nomad, well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So, Dylan, welcome to the podcast.
I appreciate you having me on, man. It's good to meet.
Yeah, absolutely. So I first heard about you on Twitter, honestly, quite recently, and I started crushing episodes of your podcast, the Sales Bro Pod,
Yeah,
right?
cool.
So people can go check that out as well. Check out I think it's just called Sales Bro Pod on
Yep.
Spotify and all the podcasts. Um, I heard you had an event last month in September, right?
Yeah, it was just this past weekend actually in Austin. Had guys come from all over. Really good turnout for the high ticket. There's a lot of sales reps, but also a lot of business owners. So a good makeup of those two.
Nice. How many people you get out?
I think. I mean, tickets wise, I think we sold 130, and then those who actually showed is probably around like 110, 115.
Nice. And it was like $100 a pop or something?
The tickets, the VIP ones, we sold 100 of them. Were like 350, and
Oh, shit.
then the other ones were like $50, like just to get in the group chats and stuff.
Yeah, cool. And I'd love to know who all was there. I know Marco Ruiz was there, previous podcast guest on the My Latin Life podcast as well.
Cool.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Was that your first time meeting Marco?
Uh, so in person, yes, we've chatted quite a bit. So he has a bunch of awesome sales roles that we help him fill. So we've had a relationship for a little bit now. But yeah, he was there. His team was there, which was really cool to meet them as well. And I don't really know who you're connected to, but some of these other business guys in the money Twitter space, some of
Hit me
these
some money Twitter names.
um let's see. I mean, my partners in the agency, they're not like super as big on like social media content creation kind of stuff. But Cole Angel and Jake Pastic helped me put it on. Um we had kind of blanking, dude. There was also a lot of Instagram people, but we had like, if you're familiar with Impact Operations, we had someone from their team come. We had, I'm thinking of Instagram guys now. Yeah, we had just a lot of like people that are running coaching, consulting businesses, probably in that like 50 to 200K per month range, like very commonly, and then just a ton of sales reps too.
Mm-hmm. And I promise for the audience, we'll move on from talking about Dylan's event, but I'm just curious. And so, what do sales reps and closers, what do they talk about when they get together?
Uh, Really do like a lot of these guys. Like if you've been on Twitter, you probably see it. Like a lot of these guys have relationships just through being on Twitter together and going through the trenches together. And so um, it's like they've known each other for like a year or 2 years and they're finally meeting. So they're talking about everything. Like they already know each other, like where they live and how much money they make and what offers are on and who they know. Like, so it's really just like guys coming together, having a good time. Just like in my community, the way that I run things, like we're really, really like network and opportunity focused over like sales training. And so this event was really just an extension of that, where you get in person, put some names to some faces, shake some hands, and then you're going to leave with, uh, a little bit deeper of a network, more of an insurance policy for you in this space to continue having success. If, let's say your offer tomorrow shuts down. So,
I do want to come back to this idea of insurance policy and how people network their way into roles. But let's talk a bit more about kind of Twitter and kind of money Twitter and how everyone knows each other. That's probably My Latin Life's biggest platform. And we definitely delve into money Twitter a fair bit, or at least there's a lot of overlap. And it's kind of cool how I was listening to your podcast, and in one of the episodes, you were talking about how a lot of the high ticket community and sales community has migrated to Twitter, and that's where it's like the primary networking platform now.
Yeah, man. I mean, Twitter changed my life. I found Money Twitter in 2017, and I tried every business model under the sun, but I couldn't get away from it, man. I didn't have success with all the business models, but I found one that I was pretty decent at, and then came back and ran with it. But yeah, dude, I always say like Twitter, and more specifically like Money Twitter. If we'll, you know, it's not what it used to be, but if we want to call it that still, um, it's like everyone goes off to run these cool businesses on other social media platforms or through other channels like, you know, cold email or whatever it might be, and then they come back to Twitter to talk about how they're doing it, which is super cool. Usually nowadays, so why I feel like Money Twitter is changing a little bit is like now people are trying to monetize the shit out of Twitter, which like there's nothing inherently wrong with doing that, but before I felt like it was just everyone goes out, makes as much money as they can wherever they can, and then they come back to Twitter to share the game. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, Money Twitter is like I met my partners on Money Twitter. I met some of my closest friends on Money Twitter. It changed my life, and it's not a bad place to be, if you ask me.
How did it change your life? Can you go into more detail?
Yeah, I mean, going back to 2017, I was in college, and I just got exposed to, you know, what life could look like outside of just working within a career. You know, having the freedom, the flexibility to travel, to accelerate your income, to do stuff that's a little bit outside of the norm. Because up until that point, I come from a military family. College was just kind of like, what's next? Like, I didn't really have a say in that, which like I'm not upset about. And then, yeah, that's all I knew. And then in 2017, when I found Money Twitter, it like opened my eyes. So like, wow, these dudes are making a lot more than I would make, and they have more freedom than I would make or I would have. So maybe I should try this. And then I went down the rabbit hole of e-commerce, email copywriting, Facebook ads, theme pages. I tried it all. So
Hmm. And how long have you been doing the sales?
I got into sales in 2020. So I got into after college. I was a construction science major, and I graduated, went into project management with a roofing company. I realized the estimators in that company were making more money than the project managers. Also, I didn't speak Spanish, so it was kind of tough to communicate. At this time, I was in San Antonio, so like South Texas, like you got to speak Spanish to do the job.
For sure.
And then I realized, like, oh shit, estimating is a sales job because estimates don't sell themselves. And then that's kind of how I got into that. Then a couple of years down the road, after I had this like proof of concept that I could sell and make good money, like I then was looking for the next thing and optimizing for a better vehicle, which was this like remote contracted sales space for me.
Random side thing here, but one of my teammates, I was asking him what previous offers he was on, and he said he was on one called Estimate Mastery or Estimation Mastery. And so I went to look at it, and there's like all these YouTube videos with like the blueprints and stuff, and they're like teaching you how to, I guess, I don't know, make good quotes for projects or something. Maybe that'd be a good offer for you to get on.
So yeah, I've heard of all different kinds of offers, but not one like that before. That's interesting.
I barely even know what an estimate is, but it's probably neither here nor there. Okay, and then so you kind of almost stumbled into the high ticket sales, and you've kind of become a bit of a leader in this space. You have 11,000 some odd Twitter followers at the time of this writing, which is pretty good. How did you build your Twitter following?
Yeah, I mean, I started the Twitter documenting my transition from roofing sales to the remote sales. So I started in Money Twitter back in 2017. I had a Twitter that I was growing then in the like email space and like the what was really like copywriting, but email was the main channel there. So I saw the value in how that could get me connected to people that would connect me to opportunities. So I had been, even though I like kind of backed away, went to college, focused on that, worked a normal job, I had still been like on Money Twitter, just kind of like anonymous. Like I was just watching, right? And
Hmm.
so when I decided that I wanted to get into this industry where these people were having online presences and these companies are online businesses, I was like, this is only going to help me. So one, I mean, I just love documenting stuff. I think it's super cool to look back a year or two, 5, 10 years behind and see where you came from. But I also knew that as a tool and from a networking perspective, it would get me in the right conversations in the right rooms to probably make this happen faster. So I started, it was like early 2022. I think I started tweeting about sales. And then, yeah, it just kind of snowballed, man. Like I started posting like valuable tweets. I started posting threads and the auto DM stuff when that was big. And then once I got like a little bit of a base audience, I found that like memes and jokes and relatable stuff like that grow pretty fast, and it keeps a level of authenticity as well. And then I just leaned into that. So literally just posted a meme before this. So
So you
that's,
started as a thread boy.
yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, I still will write some threads now, but like I used to like really go hard with them. Yeah. I was playing the growth game for sure.
Hmm. And so, what is serial sales? Your business or community?
Yeah, I mean, dude, so I was thinking like when I came back to Twitter, I was like, well, what should my handle be? Like I think my full name is taken. And then I was like, well, I'm going to be talking about sales. Like how do I make this like snappy? Like how do I give it a little ring? And I was like testing different names, seeing if the handle was free, and basically it was like the coolest sounding handle that wasn't taken at the time that I could think of, and just ran with it. And so then off of that, like the community spawned because people were asking me questions on like how to do this. I was in the DMs telling people, I was like, hey, why don't I just make like a Slack channel and just throw people in? And then it just like grew from there. But serial sales, I guess like the agency I run is called Serial Agency. The community is the serial sales community. My brand is serial sales. So it kind of all just like falls under the umbrella.
And you have business partners, or is it really the brand of Dylan?
Yeah, so in the agency I have a 50-50 partner, and then we have like some people that are very involved. And then in the community I'm like 100% owner, but I do have some like big players that help there as well.
Okay, cool. And do you still take sales calls yourself?
Not at like a high volume like B2C type environment. Like I'm not like a closer for anyone, but I am taking calls for our agency.
Hmm.
Like we got a contract back today for an awesome sales team we're about to take over. Uh, but they're a little bit different. Like if you're taking these like B2B sales calls where you're going to take over like a significant part of a business, like you're not going to be in there like practicing the same objection handling as you would with like the Amazon FBA coaching offer, right?
Uh huh.
So I still take them for the agency and for like recruiting and stuff like that.
So for the B2B agency sales, there's no let me talk to my spouse about it.
I mean, there might be, but like I'm not gonna strong arm someone into not talking to their spouse on that because like at the end of the day, like this is a working relationship that we want to last a long time, and like I feel like that would just make it weird. And also like we've been able to pull really good results in a short time, and so like we kind of do have frame. A lot of our leads that we get there are like coming off of referrals. Like we don't do any ads, any outbound for the agency, yet we keep growing. Um, and so like as long as we know they're not bullshitting, it's like, all right, dude, like go talk to your wife. We'll be here. You want to work with us, like let us know when you want to start. So
And did you start as a setter or a closer?
yeah, I went straight into closing from roofing sales, and I kind of got like caught off guard a little bit because it was very different than what I was used to. Um, So I mean, I remember I came in, I was like middle of the pack, but I was closing like 20%. So I wasn't like, I wasn't so, like I didn't get fired from being a closer, but at the same time, like I was used to being the top guy where I was at, and then getting into this like way shorter sales cycle, like I kind of struggled. So obviously took trainings. I went through like Cole Gordon stuff, and I took a bunch of sales training when I came into this space. And I did go on to like build out a setting team, which consisted of me like going through that process and iterating and figuring that out for the setters. But I went straight into closing. to come in.
Okay. And just to give people an idea, like what kind of offers or businesses have you sold for? Like what's kind of the range of stuff that's out there?
Sure. Yeah, yeah. So I started a lot of the earlier stuff was the B2C, kind of like 0 to 1 business model, make money online kind of stuff. It was just the lowest hanging fruit. I found that once I got my wings there, got some results, whatever. Um, I think the way that I think and articulate, um, I don't know, just like my value proposition does a lot of times align better with like a B2B buyer. I am like naturally just like a more logical, analytical type. And I think that resonates more versus like so doing that to the B2C audience. So started with like some of these 0 to 1 biz ops, and then I started selling for like agencies. So I was stacking offers, like lead gen. One was like social media. Another one was lead gen, but in like capital markets. Um, so yeah, kind of like as things progressed, went from B2C. A fitness offer, believe it or not, is where I got like my stride. That's where I got to like the 100K a year. And then leaving that, I went B2B. I don't think I ever went back.
Hmm. Interesting. So now it's all B2B.
Well, now, I mean, our agency does B2C, B2B. Like we just signed a fitness coach today. That's the client that we signed. Yesterday, we had a content guy sign. So two sales teams that were going to take over in B2C. Um, but I was just saying, like me as a closer, like most of my stuff since probably like 2023 has been B2B.
And would you recommend for the audience if they were looking to get into this, um, should they cut their teeth with B2C first? Is that easier or does it
Uh,
matter?
I mean, at the end of the day, man, I think it really does come down to the product and the offer and who you're selling to. Like they can both be easy if all those things are right. But I would optimize for like where I can get the most reps and probably earn the most in the beginning, which is usually in this space is usually B2C because they can just generate more leads easier. It's pretty rare that you see like lead generation agencies with 6 full-time closers that are all making 10K a month, because there's that operational complexity on the back end. Whereas an Airbnb coaching program, you sell it 100 times, it doesn't make a difference. So B2C is like, if you're looking for volume and like cut your teeth and learn a lot really fast, like B2C is probably the way to go.
Okay. And I realize we probably need to explain a bit more of how the business model works. My understanding is it's usually commission only for the closer and maybe base plus commission for the setter, but you could probably explain this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I've really like over time, we've tested the waters with a lot of different types of companies. So the obvious ones I feel like are coaching and like agency or services. But I know like now, consulting is one, which is kind of a little harder. Software, events, any kind of do it yourself, done with you, done for you, high ticket service, like pretty much anything that's online that is a little too expensive to be sold off a landing page, which is probably like 2K and above. Um, and then, yeah, sales reps are going to be contracted in most cases, not always. I've seen some W2, which is pretty interesting, like W2 commission only stuff. And then, yeah, setting, like depending on if it's inbound, outbound, there's a bunch of different ways to get paid. Could be base, could be pay per booking, could be pay per close, bonus incentives. Closing is usually going to be performance based. And then actually a lot of people that are in my like community and my network are into like sales management now, which is another role once you get to that point. And that's usually going to be potentially base, but usually like rev share as well.
Okay. Could we give some numbers at each type of role? Because I assume each team will have some setters, some closers, a
Yeah.
manager. Could you give us an idea of what someone might expect to make at each level?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this really does depend on the person, man. Just like a normal sales job, it's like the top dogs are going to be the top dogs in whatever industry they go in. So if I'm going to generalize numbers, like super conservatively, like 3 to 5K as an appointment setter is probably what you should be expecting. That being said, I know appointment setters that have done over 15,000 in a month. Um, Closing wise, like if it's a quality closing role, you should probably be expecting like 7 to 12 in there. I've seen that be really common. I know a closer I recorded a podcast, shout out Trey, did like 80K commission in a single month as a closer. Um, and then managers, like it's hard to say. It depends how big the team is and how early they introduce the manager. But I would say the manager should not be making as much as the top closer. The top people on the sales team should be making more than the manager. So wherever your sales reps are, just like back it down a little bit from there. So
Okay. And my understanding for the closer is like it's pretty much 10% commission across the board, commission only, or does it matter how expensive the product or service is or
yeah, I've seen it depends on the company structure and how filtered the leads are before they get to you. In addition to the volume, I've seen as low as like 7.5%, but that would mean they have a lot of really qualified leads coming your way. I've seen and I've had, I think, up to 20%. Anything like 20%, the only way that you can get 20% and it not be a bad opportunity is if you have more leverage on that team than they have over you, meaning like you're the one with the track record, they're the one with the earlier business, and they know that by getting you in there, you're going to be a consistent variable that they can build around and not have to worry about. So, but standard, I would say like 8 to 12% is pretty standard.
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Crema Social. Crema Social is like TikTok for international dating. It's an app you can download right now on your phone, and 3 out of 4 people on Crema are single women. The app was founded in Colombia, so unsurprisingly, there are a lot of Latinas on the app, by the way. So, how does it work? Crema Social is a social meal experience where you invite a hot girl for a lunch date via video call and food delivery. New concept, so you'll have to try it out for yourself, but this is probably the best way to meet Latinas before you visit the country. So if you're in Latin America or planning to visit Latin America, download Crema Social now and start getting dates right away. There will be a link in the description to download or just search Crema Social on your favorite app store. Have fun, guys. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Bit Refill. Bit Refill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Job Stacking. If you are a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Holtze, the author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond 20K a month. So what is job stacking? It's this idea of working multiple remote jobs. You might have heard Rolf, he's worked 5, 7, even 9 remote jobs at the same time before. And by the way, job stacking works equally well for non-technical roles. So no, it's not just for the nerds. So if you're ready to job stack, then book a discovery call with Job Stacking and see how they can double your income in just 9 weeks. In the show notes in the description, there will be a link where you can book a call directly on the Calendly of Job Stacking and be talking with them as early as tomorrow about how to double your income as quickly as possible. Okay. And then for the setters, the 3 to 5K, I mean, I'm sure are people going to have to go overseas for the setters? Because I don't think a lot of Americans are going to tolerate that for more than 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. So 3 to 5K, like, and that's like a conservative goal, but like, dude, the number of setters that I like we work with and that I work with in the community, they're more like in that 5 to 10 range. Like it's a pretty significant amount. I'm like really big on expectation setting, and I'd rather always like under promise over deliver kind of thing. Um, but yeah, 3 to 5K. You're not really looking for overseas in that case. Like if the role is a 3 to 5K role, you're probably looking at like just somebody who's younger and just wants to like get into the space. Because like I know, for example, when I quit roofing sales, I was on pace. It was like May. I was on pace to make like 180 that year. Second year out of college, like it was a dream situation. But my number for when I quit to get like the proof of concept was like, dude, if I can make 3K a month, I'll quit this because I know like more money is down the line if I can give this my full effort. So you can definitely find American talent for 3 to 5K. It's just like you're probably not going to hold on to them for 2 years, you know?
Hmm. Okay, cool. Um, Austin, Texas. So, is there a lot of people in this space in Austin? Is it a hub for this type of thing?
Yeah, man. A really big one. I feel like more so for the business owners, like coaches, agency, that kind of stuff. But sales reps, they're coming quickly. We just had two of our setters move from California and Minnesota down to Austin, Texas, in one apartment. Um, and then after our event, we have some guys talking about canceling their leases and getting here. But yeah, they're out here, but I feel like it's a little bigger for the business owners.
The business owners.
Mhm.
Okay. And there was one episode you had where it was basically like tech sales or like professional AE sales versus high ticket sales, right? And it's kind of like two potential career tracks. And there's one career track where it's like SDR, BDR, account executive, right? With like big companies, established, probably Fortune 500 companies or, bigger companies. And then there's another track where it's setter, closer, sales manager for typically much smaller operations, smaller teams, and and that kind of thing. Uh, and what's interesting is if you're remote, maybe you might not have that opportunity to do some of the Fortune 500 stuff. But if you're in Austin, Texas, there's a lot of tech companies there that need tech AEs and this kind of thing.
Mhm.
So you're really or people are in the high ticket space by choice. So what's kind of the pros? Am I characterizing this correctly? Like, what's kind of the pros and cons of each business model and career track?
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, this is something that I get asked a good amount. We have a lot of guys that come from tech to high ticket. Just because of the nature of the work I do, I'm not seeing too many go from high ticket to tech, but I know it happens. Um, so like pros and cons, like I would first and foremost say, like, dude, if you're a guy with 3 kids, a mortgage, 2 car payments, wife, you're the sole provider for your family, and you need to make 10K a month, or you're gonna be done for. Like you're gonna have some bankruptcy. You should probably just do something that's more stable, like tech sales. So high ticket does have fluctuations. It can have fluctuations. However, you do get a level of autonomy with the high ticket stuff that you won't get with tech sales. Even being remote with tech sales, some of these guys, man, like the sales reps, they're on like 2 3 meetings a day, like literally talking about fucking nothing, um, and it drives people up a wall. And so you do have the potential to make a lot of money in both. I think they're both great options, but it just depends what's important to you and what season of life you're in, to be honest. I will say too, like tech sales does have, generally speaking, like a higher barrier to entry from what I've seen, just because a lot of kids coming out of college are like, I have a communications degree. How do I make the most money? Tech sales. Or I have a business degree. I don't want to start a business. Tech sales. So you are competing with those people, but overall, they're both good options.
And could someone like, is if tech sales is more stable, how does high ticket compensate in terms of a higher potential upper threshold, or is
Yeah.
it really the autonomy, or what are some of the benefits of high ticket versus stable tech sales?
Yeah. I'll use like my guy George. He's been in my community since I think January 2023. So he came out of, I think he was in like tax prep like for a long time, like career guy. He's like 40 years old or so. If he's not that old and he's listening, I'm sorry, George. Um but yeah, like in his first year selling fitness offer online, like he made $200,000 first year out of tax prep in high ticket sales. You're not going to do that in tech sales. So like the time to get the potential to earn 100, 150, 200, 250, I think it's a lot shorter because you can get there in tech sales. It just might take you 2, 3, 4 years, depending on how you play your role. So I think potential is what is interesting to people. And then also like the part-time nature, if you desire that. So like for me, when I came into it, I was grinding in roofing sales. Like I kind of just wanted to breathe without fully sacrificing my income. And that fitness offer where I broke that 100K per year mark and was earning well. Like I was literally taking three 45-minute calls per day, and I was making more than I would have made in my first year in tech sales. So like there's definitely like pros and cons, but with the high ticket sales, like the speed is one thing, and then just overall like having the flexibility to do what you want when you want, as long as you hold your own. I think it's
Mhm.
attractive to a lot of people, including myself.
Now, I know people promise big things on Twitter and other just high ticket gurus, and they say like easiest way to make 10, 20K a month. Is there sort of a expectations versus reality thing? Because I'm sure there's, because here's what I was kind of thinking, was that with tech sales, kind of like anyone that gets in is probably 60, 70, 80K on the lower end, and then on the higher end, obviously there are people making more than $500,000 a year that are very established and win big deals. But on the high ticket side, there's definitely a lower bottom where there's definitely a lot of guys that are maybe making 2, 3K a month that want to be making 10K a month, but maybe they're on a bad offer, or there's not enough, or it's a good offer, but there's not enough lead flow. So maybe they need to get like a second offer with a different company. So would that be kind of accurate that there is, maybe you could ramp faster, but it could also go the other way in terms of having like a lower, not kind of get to the number that you want to get to?
Yeah, and I could see the only pro. Okay, so if you're not good, you should go to tech sales because you'll probably make more by being not good. Like I'll say that, I guess, first and foremost. But the thing is, like, because of that corporate structure, dude, they're very slow to hire and fire. And so like if you're not good and you get into a tech sales role, like you probably got a good amount of runway to try to get good or start looking for the next opportunity. Um, but I would say like another reason I hadn't brought up is like a lot of people get into high ticket sales is almost like uh an in between, I guess, temporary cash flow mechanism to start that business or to make their business full time, to transition from corporate job to, like, one of our guys, for example, he runs a vending machine business and doesn't really need this to work, but he likes it to work. Um, and so, yeah, I think I would agree with you that on the lower end of things, like there are appointment setters who are making 2, 3, 4K a month, and you could go be an SDR. But at the same time, it's like it's gonna take you a long time to be in tech sales to make 30K a month. And if 3 years from now you don't even want to be in sales, you want to own your own business, like which one makes more sense to me? You know?
Hmm. I feel like the people who think of it as a stopover, though, high ticket sales probably aren't going to do well because it really is a skill set and something that does take a long time to get good at.
Yeah.
Like you'll get closes, you'll get laydowns, as they're called, like easy closes, but um, it's definitely a skill that takes years to really get really good at, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I mean, if you're coming from a sales background that's similar, like a door to door where you're setting and closing and you really have that full skill set, you're going to have an easier time for this being like a temporary thing. But I usually tell people, man, like if you don't see yourself doing this for at least a year, like you should probably just either stick out where you're at or consider something else. Because one thing that I talk about a lot with the guys that I work with is like the hardest part about, like, in the beginning, the hardest part is just getting someone to trust that you understand the industry enough compared to where you're coming from to do the job correctly. Once you get someone to take that bet on you and you get a little bit of results, like there's a lot more doors that open up as far as opportunities, earning potential, all that stuff. You just got to get through that first door.
And for someone to make over 10K a month in high ticket, what does that look like? Are they on one offer? Are they on multiple offers? How many calls a day are they taking? Are they just taking calls? Or are they also doing lots of email follow-ups and this kind of thing? What I know it probably varies, but
Yeah.
what's kind of involved to make at least 10K a month?
Yeah, it definitely varies. I guess on the like easier end of the spectrum, like I have a guy, Angel. I ran an interview with him. He's doing like 15K a month on 3 to 4 calls a day, some follow ups, some second calls, managing his CRM. But like, it's a very good like lifestyle thing, and that's the sad part about this space. Why I think it gets so much like scrutiny is because people take that and like make it seem like the norm, and then people come into this and they're like, why the fuck am I not making 15K a month part time from the beach? Now on the other end of that, like some of our teams, like in our agency, like we have guys that are crushing like 20, 30K months, but they're like, I mean, by choice, like the calendar's open 6 days a week, 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
And so we can really look both ways. I think when you get into more of that B2B stuff, you do get into more like intense pipeline management and strategy versus just like churn and burn B2C. But I mean, yeah, man, to like hit that 10K mark or hit that 15, like you can have a really solid like work life balance.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I know there are times where I'll have a call coming in. I'm like at the gym. I gotta like run home. You know what I mean? You've probably been there too.
hmm Yeah, I mean, dude, I take calls from the gym. Probably not the best. Like, not I don't go like when I have a scheduled call, but if someone's calling me, I'll just like pick up and the music's all loud, and then I like step out. But yeah, I try to like right now. I'm literally at WeWork. It's my first time experiencing this because I'm like trying to change up the scenery to where I can to go to places where I can actually take calls. Like
Mhm.
coffee shops, it can be hit or miss. So
Oh, it's the worst.
yeah.
I couldn't run a proper 1 hour closing call from a coffee shop. There's just you can't really dial in.
No, dude. I mean, one thing it's like it's just stressful, dude. It's like you show up to the coffee shop. It's like, oh, I hope there's a open seat that's not too loud next to the coffee grinder. Oh, my laptop needs to be charged. Now I need to look for an outlet. And then, dude, I learned my lesson on my first closing offer. I was like, oh shit, like I could travel and I could do this, and I did that. I went to the beach, and that wasn't the problem. The problem was taking calls from the coffee shop and like my connection's all shitty, and the lady's like, I can't hear you. Like, there's too much background noise, and I got hung up on. I was just like, at that moment, I was like, damn, maybe I should not take calls from the coffee shop.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. So let's come back to that open thread about how networking and meeting people can be sort of an insurance policy. And actually, before that, I have a good segue into that, which is when you compare tech sales versus high ticket sales, a tech sales offer, that company is expected, that Fortune 500 company or whatever, they're expected to grow 15, 20%, 40% a year every year for the next 5 to 10 years. And they have 5 and 10 year projections. So obviously, maybe that software might get some tweaks or whatever, but that you're going to be selling essentially the same thing 5 years from now. But I feel like, and you can tell me if this is true or not, but I feel like sometimes with these high ticket offers, they have a bit of a shorter shelf life where people are not running the same offer for 2, 3, and certainly not 5 years. And maybe the offer might only be hot for like 6 months. Or what's kind of your experience there?
Yeah, definitely. That's why I'm saying like, dude, if your priority is stability, like don't even think twice. Go to high or go to tech sales. Like if you're looking for a company to be with for 10 years and rise the ranks, like go to tech sales. I would agree. Like, yeah, high ticket does have a shorter shelf life, like per opportunity. I think it's also just because like the space is evolving so fast. Like it is, sure, there's guys that have been selling over infomercial, like I don't know, trainings and courses and all that, like
Uh-huh.
Dean Graziosi, all those guys. But I feel like it's just evolving so fast, and like the opportunities that pop up, from what I've seen, at least, like once someone gets a solid footing in this space, they're not leaving the company because like the company went under, or like I don't know, the lead flow ceased to exist. They're leaving the company because they now have the skills to like leverage up into something better. And it is almost like because you're a contractor, it's easy to get in and get out. There is a little bit of like a grass is greener situation in the high ticket space that I've seen. So I guess, I mean, that is definitely one of like the key differences. It just depends like what you're looking for.
And it's kind of on both sides because it's kind of like the contractors might be quicker to jump ship, but it's also the offer. So just take the Airbnb mentorship offer that you mentioned, right? Like, can that be consistently sold at consistent levels of cash collected every month for 2 years, or 2 years at a minimum, or does it have maybe a shorter shelf life where the paid ads stop working or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
then the people, the whole team is like, shit, like the offer's not working anymore.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it really does come back to like the founder who's running it, but like a lot of times, dude, the reason why these offers fall apart is like fulfillment is dog shit. So like if you can find something where like fulfillment is good, and the person running it is invested and they don't get bored and like start flying around the world and stop paying attention, like it could be good. Like last year at our event, we had a guy there that had been closing on the same Airbnb offer for 6 years, and he's making like 30-40K a month there. So like I actually was surprised by that because I've heard 2 to 3 years, and this is kind of a newer space. So 2 to 3 years is a good amount of time. This guy had been on it for 6 years. So
Mm-hmm. And then moving on to insurance policy or networking and how to get these offers, because it really seems to be a thing where the offer you're on is super, super impactful in a way that it wouldn't be in tech sales. Like in tech sales, if you work for IBM or Microsoft, or even like a smaller one, like some fucking Juniper Networks or some shit, like it kind of doesn't matter as much, like the vehicle. But I feel like in high ticket sales, the vehicle, the offer matters like so much, almost more than your actual skill level in sales.
mhm. Yeah, I'd agree with that. That's why I'm like really big on knowing the people that are on these offers, because I mean that's your easiest way in. And I always say, dude, like if you're capable of doing 10K a month somewhere, you're capable of doing 30. You just need the offer that's going to get you there. Like you don't get to 10K a month by not knowing what you're doing, you know? And so the offer is like, I mean, I literally say it's like 80% of the equation. Not to say you shouldn't, perfect your craft and take ongoing training or whatever that might be. But yeah, that's why in this space, like knowing the right people on those offers, or the marketing people, the sales people, the managers, like it pays off many times over.
And do you like the term offer? I feel like it's a bit demeaning when it should be
Yeah.
like business or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. I do, if I'm talking to like people that know the high ticket space, like I'll say offer because they know what I'm talking about. But like when I do talk to other people that are not in this space and I say, oh, my offer or this offer, um, it kind of like puts it into perspective. It's like, it sounds a little, just, it sounds
A little
funny. Like,
dinky, right?
yeah, yeah. But no, you just say like my company or something like that. But it's just as a contractor, it's like, I don't know how much they want to claim me or claim that person. So, um, yeah, it's always fun trying to explain it to people that aren't in it too.
Hmm.
It's just like a whole different world.
And so to me, I think getting past 20K is what makes it worth it, because you can make like 10K a month really is not a lot of money anymore these days. Like in Austin, like you're not even having a fun life. Like you can barely go out to dinner on
Yeah.
120K, and you can't have the car that you want.
Yeah.
Um, So I feel like 20K is kind of where you need to be compensated for the lack of job security and offer security and this kind of thing. So what does that take? Are you seeing more people who are getting past 20K? Are they on multiple offers, or are they getting that all from one offer? And is that an offer? Are there multiple people on that same team making 20K plus, or is that, or is that because you're getting all the leads, or how does that kind of work?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say at like a foundational level, like you have to be proficient in sales. Like you're not going to get there. The offer isn't going to save you if you're trying to get to 20K a month. Like you need to have an understanding. Most of the guys that I see that are making 20K a month, they're doing it on one team. Um, Now within that team, it again, like we're getting into like a big pool of different structures and sizes and all this stuff, but like we have some teams where like we have multiple reps. Most of them are in that 10 to 20 range. Maybe we have a couple like peaking over 20 into like closer to the 30s. And I mean, but that being said, dude, it's like I have a guy that works with us on one team, and he just does like the SDR, appointment setter, like contract stacking thing. He does like 25K a month. So I think he has like three stacked up though. In my opinion though, like I would rather go deeper with one company to get to that 20, 30K than like be spread across two or three. Um, because the reality of it is like most people aren't going to hire you part time because they prefer you to be part time. They're hiring you part time because they can't generate enough demand for the product. So
Right.
it's like usually it's an earlier company. So that being said, it's like if you can go somewhere that like has channeled that demand for their product and just be on the receiving end to help them capitalize, like that's probably the ideal spot. Just one team.
Yeah, that makes sense. Switching gears a little bit on the sales agency side, I was kind of curious how that business model works. We only have like maybe 10 minutes left, but
Sure.
when you are presenting this to people, like, hey, let me take over your sales, um, maybe some people have different CRMs. Like some people are Go High Level, some people are HubSpot. Do you then have Are you managing like different softwares for every team because they probably don't want to switch, or do you tell them no, you got to switch to Go High Level because we know if we do that we can double your income, or
Yeah.
it's like it's easy to build an offer from scratch, at least in the sense of like having the type of funnel that you want, but when you go into maybe an existing business that has an existing funnel and CRM and structure, how much do you adapt to their structure versus like rip and replace?
No, we come in with our own structure, and it's an easy sell because like I said, all of our interested prospects are coming to us because they've seen what we've done with other people. If we were taking this outbound and being like everything that you've invested in time and energy and money into building, you can forget it because we have our stuff, it'd be a little bit harder. But we run it a little bit differently, man. I know some people it's like we do take over this, we don't take over this. Like we take over everything and we house it and we include it in our pricing. So all the software, the expenses around like dialers, credits, call recordings, automations. Like we are plug and play. All you do is get your marketing team to route into our CRM, and we're going to handle it from there.
Uh-huh.
And then we pay all the sales reps ourselves.
And if they already have a CRM, but it's not one that you like, you just say, you know what, just download the contacts in Excel, and we're just going to upload it into our thing, and we're going to kind of start it from scratch.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really run into that quite yet. Like a lot, it's crazy, dude, how big these businesses can get without a CRM. Um, like dudes doing 300, 400K a month and they use Google Sheets. It's like they don't even really track stuff properly. But no, we use Go High Level, and then we have the agency snapshot, and within that we have all the different sub accounts. And so we tell people it's like unless you want to pay us to build this out for you, like where you own it, which could be like 10, 15, 20K, just let us do what we do, route the leads to us. So
Okay. And so you use your own Go High Level with, 10 sub accounts or whatever. And so the business owner kind of loses control over their own CRM and their own leads list, eh?
Well, I mean, we'll give them access to it, but like
Uh-huh.
we are the ones who have ownership over it. If they want us to like export the leads and send them, if they paid for them, we'll do it. If we're paying for the leads, so that's why like the agency model like that we're running, there is a little bit of a moat because you need the capital to be able to front all the software, all the stuff that we're paying for. But we've never churned a client because we weren't doing our job. Um, we've only been running this like done for you outsourced sales team since like beginning of the year, but like it's very sticky for that reason because if they fire us, CRM's gone, their sales team is gone, like they're going to be scrambling. And they, I mean, people know that like ahead of time. And a lot of these teams, man, like they have multiple sales teams. Like they're routing leads between two teams, three teams, maybe one internal and two contracted. So it's a very interesting business model, but we found like the more control we have, the more say or like I guess the more control we have, the more control we have over the performance, and we don't have to be like let's say an automation breaks. It's like, oh shit, I don't have the password to this client's Zapier account. I got to wait for them. We're losing money. We're losing leads. I fix the automation. Next thing you know, we need a new contract updated in PandaDoc, but we don't have access to their PandaDoc. So like with us having all the control, we can just do more faster and test and improve things faster.
So I know some business models of the agency or of outsourced sales teams. They say you generate the leads, and we just take whatever comes in on the calendar. But then the problem with that is you just start thinking like, fuck, if I just was able to, DM or like run some ads for this guy, like I could generate so many more leads. So it's kind of hard. So it's like, where do you draw the line?
So that's the thing, like perfect example because once you go through this process a few times, like you start to learn it very well. And so we actually do have some clients where we come in with our marketing team, which is just an agency that we're very close with, and we'll like one of us will front the ad spend and make the splits work. Now, in order for us to do that, like the client could front the ad spend, but we could also do it. In order for us to front it, like we do need pretty aggressive split to make the numbers work depending on the product. But yeah, I mean, if we're not housing the marketing team, we're referring them or referring a marketing team. And it's the same with like the fulfillment slash like client success stuff. Like if there's unrealized opportunity being pushed to the back end and like we've seen how it could be captured, like we're gonna do what we can to help them do that.
Okay. And would you typically use just one marketing team, or would you use different teams for different verticals and say, I have the Facebook ads guy and then I have the whatever guy, or do you just like work with one marketing team and you just 100% depend on leads from this one team that you rely on? Or
I mean, a lot of our teams right now are running like the paid ads funnel. So like Meta, Google, some TikTok, and we have a team like a go-to team that we work with for that. If we are getting into more like
oops.
organic territory, we'll probably pull in somebody else.
Yeah, yeah. Because a lot of people like you want to go to someone that probably has organic leads, and then you juice that up with paid, and then you kind of have a mix of organic and paid.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so sounds like you don't just wait for things to come in on the calendar. You want to get involved in that lead generation.
Yeah, as much as we can. I mean, sometimes like some of these teams we're running, like they don't have a personal brand for us to post stories to post links or do that kind of stuff. Like it's literally a product from someone that nobody knows that the founder wants to people to know about their product, and then we'll like run paid ads to it. It's just very dependent. Like the two that we signed today and yesterday, like they're both primarily like just brand. Like they're not really doing paid ads and they're pushing volume. So we're trying to we're trying to master both for sure.
And then you have to have a conversation where it's like, hey, I know we came in just to take the closing calls, but maybe give us, 15% more and we'll take over the ads too, that kind of thing. Does that
Yeah,
happen?
yeah. I mean, usually we'll come in and we'll pitch that. for people if we feel like that's where it could go. But we haven't had any situations like that yet where we're like, we run the sales team for a while, we say, your marketing sucks, let's do it. I'm sure we'll get there though.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Cool. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely one of the top career paths that I see with people for remote work and working abroad. A lot of my friends in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, and in Medellin, there's tons of high ticket closers down there.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we knew some of the same guys um, that have like done a tour down there, maybe a couple tours.
Yeah, yeah, for
You're
sure.
in Playa del Carmen?
I'm in Mexico at the moment, but not Playa. But I've spent a lot of time in Playa. Yeah.
Makes sense. Cool.
Yeah, you should come down, work on your Spanish, and then you can take more real estate offers.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm in so Austin's I don't even know how far Austin is, but San Antonio is like an hour and a half from the border. So like I grew up there. I grew up in South Texas, so I've never been to Mexico. Besides, I think
What?
I went to one of the beaches like on a cruise, but that doesn't count. Um,
Ah, dude, it's like $150 flight. You got to rip it.
I know. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'll have to get down there eventually.
No, well, I appreciate you coming on and making this more of an educational episode for the audience, explaining to them a potential career path. Because I'm more on the side of just like talking about the benefits of Latin America. Lower your taxes, lower your cost of living. The parties are better, the food's better, all that type of stuff. And then for a lot of people, I don't, for a lot of people, they still got to figure out the remote work piece of it. And that's why conversations like this are helpful. So maybe you'll get some people who want to hit you up because they want to get a job, or maybe they want you to run their sales team. So do you want to take a minute and let people know how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on, letting me yap a little about this stuff. My tag everywhere is just serial sales. On Instagram, there's two S's at the end. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. I think that's all of them. TikTok, if you're into that kind of thing, then yeah, it's the same everywhere.
And that's SERIAL, not the food.
Yeah, yeah, not the food. Cereal with an S. Yeah,
Cool, cool. The link will be in the show notes, linking to your Twitter and all that, so people can look you up. And if they want to get a job or they want to work with you in some capacity, feel free to hit up Dylan. He's been pretty responsive to my DM, so we appreciate
cool.
him coming
Yeah,
on the pod.
appreciate you having.
Um, yeah, so this has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, our guest today, Dylan from Serial Sales. And guys, if you haven't yet subscribed, we put out 2 episodes a week with amazing guests like Dylan. My Latin Life podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. And there's also the Sales Bro podcast that people can check out too, Dylan's podcast, which has more information on this space. Thanks to Dylan. Thanks to the audience for listening.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It was fun.
Hey guys, quick note at the end of the episode here. If you made it this far, you might be interested in working with My Latin Life personally to make progress on your internationalization plan. So whether the next step for you is getting residency in Latin America, lowering your taxes, choosing the best country, maybe a little birth tourism, whatever the next step is for you, of course, My Latin Life can help. We've helped people in their 20s, their 40s, their 60s, because I truly believe that Latin America has something to offer people at every stage of life. So if you want to become our VIP client, if you want to work with Vance, myself directly, book a call. There will be a link in the description. There will be a small fee for the initial consultation, and we do that to filter out the time wasters and focus on the best of the best clients. But if you're listening to this podcast and you made it all the way through the episode, I know you're the best of the best. But we're ready to work with you. So book that call. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the My Latin Life podcast, and we'll catch you in the next one.